There comes a moment in our lives when it just stops making sense. Maybe nothing excites you anymore. Maybe you've lost your sense of direction. Or maybe you're doing everything right and still feel like you're going nowhere. It's frustrating, like walking through fog with no map, no motivation, and no clear reason why. But what if it doesn't mean you failed? What if this nowhere is actually a turning point, the moment where your real path begins? My name is Milo, and welcome to Quest Transform. This question is one of the first signs that something deeper inside of you is waking up. It means you're no longer running on autopilot. You've paused long enough to realize that something's not aligned. What you're feeling isn't confusion. It's the friction between the life you've built and the life you actually want. You've been holding it all together, doing what's expected, checking the boxes, but something inside you isn't buying it anymore. Maybe it was somebody else's version of success you chased. Maybe you've just forgotten how to feel like yourself. You've reached a point where doing more of the same just doesn't cut it. And that feeling of being lost, it's not a dead end. It's your inner compass rejecting a path that no longer reflects who you truly are. So are you really stuck? No. You find yourself at the point of stillness. And remember, feeling stuck and feeling still are not the same thing. Stillness isn't failure. It's space, a quiet in-between where you can find your truth, reflect on what's no longer working, and finally listen to the whispers of your inner voice. Because stillness isn't the absence of movement. It's the presence of awareness. And awareness is where transformation begins. But here's the thing. Stillness can be uncomfortable. And most people don't sit with it. They run. Because when you finally slow down, all the feelings you've been dodging start to catch up. The ones you've buried under busyness, achievements, distractions. And suddenly, sitting still feels heavier than moving forward ever did. That's why the moment you try to pause, your mind rushes to fill the silence with plans, with problems, with panic. Not because you're broken, but because silence reveals what noise was hiding. So ask yourself, are you really lost? Or are you just avoiding what you might feel when you stop? When you are born, your purpose is simply to explore, discover the world around you. As a child, it's about playing, making friends, enjoying the moment. Later on, it might be about passing tests, helping somebody, making your parents proud. Then comes the career, relationships, travel. For some, goals as these are the purpose. Some need to dig deeper to know the why, while others are just trying to survive. But let's pause for a moment. What even is a purpose? It's not always some grand mission or calling. It's not about being extraordinary. Purpose can be quiet. It can be how you show up for the people you love, how you grow through what life gives you, how you choose to live. Purpose isn't just what you do, it's how you do it. With kindness, with sincerity, with courage. Any goal can become a purpose. So let me ask you this. What if you don't have a purpose? Would that really be such a bad thing? Or would that mean you can focus on creating one? Maybe you don't need a cosmic assignment to make your life meaningful. Maybe you don't need a mysterious figure appearing in your life to tell you what you're here for. Maybe it's about you deciding for yourself. What is it that you want, and what steps do you need to take? Make it yours. Let it be messy. Let it be honest. Let it be something that actually matters to you. You don't need a perfect plan, just a little bit of truth and the courage to follow where it leads. You've run the thoughts over and over. You've asked yourself the same questions so many times. And yet, you can never find the answer, or at least the one that you want to hear. At some point, it all turns into a noise of uncertainty, and you're left with a feeling of a strange kind of emptiness, like something's missing, but you can't name what. And the harder you try to find it, the louder the noise becomes. You may wonder, why do I feel so empty? Because you've been living in your head for too long, overthinking, replaying, searching for answers that don't come through logic. You've reached the limit of what thinking alone can give you. So now, you're being guided somewhere else to shift your perspective from your head to your heart, from thinking to feeling, from controlling to surrendering. The feeling of emptiness comes from being disconnected, not from the world, but from yourself, from constantly reaching outward when what you truly need is inward. You've searched for meaning in all the noise, but meaning lives in the quiet, because once the noise fades, what's left is you, raw, unfiltered, and maybe a little unfamiliar. But here's the thing, when you finally meet yourself in that quiet, it can feel strange. Sometimes we've been strangers to our own depth for so long, we forget what we're made of. We live through versions of ourselves built to cope, to impress, to protect, and forget the softness, the wildness, the curiosity. And when we finally uncover those long-lost parts of ourselves, they might feel foreign. We spend so long performing, pleasing, surviving. It's no wonder our truth feels strange at first. But those pieces carry the clarity we've been chasing. So all that overthinking, cycling through thoughts, doubts, hypothetical versions of ourselves, disconnects us from the real versions of us that keeps calling out for a life that actually feels like ours. You want something to change, but when you imagine actually doing it, you freeze. Suddenly, even your problems feel safer than the unknown. It's like dragging an old suitcase packed with everything you've ever been. You want to move on, but the weight of expectations, regrets, and labels make it feel impossible to take a step. And part of you wonders, if I unpack this, will there be anything left of me? But here's the truth. It's not you that's keeping you back. It's everything you once were. The habits, the expectations, the stories. The versions of you that coped by staying busy or staying silent. The one who believed that achievements meant worth. That if you were impressive enough, strong enough, helpful enough, maybe you'd finally feel safe. So you built a personality out of praise, out of roles, out of what worked. But it was never really you, just a mask that fit well enough to survive. And now that mask is slipping, and it's terrifying. Because if you're not who you've always been, then who are you? You find yourself stuck between two lives, the one you don't want anymore, and the one you're too scared to reach for. It's okay to pause here. This is a space of reflection, of shedding, of preparing to leap. So don't be hasty to judge yourself. You're not lazy. You're not procrastinating. You're getting ready. Be patient with yourself, as it's a process and it takes time. So where do you begin when you're standing at the edge of everything you used to be? Do you just create a new version of yourself to chase? Well, partially. But be careful. You don't want to build another mask. Instead, imagine a future self that's fluid. Someone who can bend, grow, and respond to life without losing the center. Let it be a gentle direction, not a rigid identity. And to move forward, don't just look ahead. Look back. Back to who you were before the world told you who to be. before you thought you had to earn love, before success became a substitute for self-worth. That version of you, raw, curious, whole, is still there, not waiting to be improved, but remembered. You don't need to reinvent yourself. You just need to come home. As you shed the past layer by layer, you begin to feel lighter. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer pretending. You start noticing things again. How sunlight dances on a wall, the smell of something baking, the way laughter bubbles up without asking for permission. You start asking questions, not to control life, but to be part of it. You get curious about your own thoughts, your feelings, your desires. Not to fix them, but to know them. Follow what feels alive, even if it's small, even if it makes no sense. A walk with no destination, a new song on repeat, an old hobby calling your name. Do it not to be productive, but to feel connected. Not to prove your worth, but to remember your joy. Because when you let curiosity lead, healing happens quietly. It doesn't demand you rebuild your life overnight. It simply invites you to live it differently. Not from fear, not from pressure, but from wonder. Discover what lights you up when no one's watching. What makes you lose track of time. What brings you back to yourself, quietly and gently. Let those moments become your compass. Not every step needs a destination. Sometimes all you need is a direction and the curiosity to follow it. This is where your transformation truly begins. Not from force, but from wonder.